I'm Omri Evron from Jaffa, and I'm the co-coordinator of the Peace Partnership Coalition. I grew up here in Jaffa, in a joint Jewish Arabic neighborhood. So since I can remember myself, I've interacted with both Jews and Arabs, and equality seemed something kind of obvious for me, or at least fighting for equality. I come from a very progressive family that encouraged me to be critical and be active in the community. And since middle school, I've been going to demonstrations against the occupation. As a youth, I joined the Communist Youth League. I went to demonstrations against the apartheid wall in the West Bank. I was part of the Shministim letter movement. I went to prison as a conscientious objector. So when I started being politically active in middle school, it was during the Second Intifada. Reacting to the very extreme forms of racism I saw being normalized around me, I knew that I had to do something that seemed radical, that would be a shock to the system. And as a result, in 2006, when I was supposed to be drafted, I refused. I was trialed in military tribunals, sent to military prison. But it's just a part of my lifetime commitment to struggle for liberation and equality. The Peace Partnership came as a direct reaction to the war in Gaza. It was formed in December 2023, at a time when the peace movement in Israel was completely demobilized. It was impossible to act publicly against the slaughter in Gaza, against the war. Before the Peace Partnership was formed, there was only one legal demonstration that occurred inside Israel against the war. Only after appealing to the courts and under very severe police repression and a lot of violence, it was obvious that no organization alone could actually act inside Israel against the brutality that was going on. And therefore, it was clear that we, the peace movements in Israel, had to work together, had to form some kind of partnership if we're to have any kind of ability to mobilize inside Israel against the war. And so in December 2023, representatives of several dozen organizations met together and decided to form the Peace Partnership on the basis of minimal, immediate agreement on 5 principles: an end to the war in Gaza, an exchange deal for hostages and prisoners, pursuing a political solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, an end to racist and political repression, and social justice approach to ending the conflict, emphasizing the needs of disenfranchised communities. So all the first major mobilizations inside Israel against the war in Gaza, against the genocide in Gaza, were organized through the Peace Partnership. What was genuinely unique about the Peace Partnership is that from its very inception, it was formed as a genuine joint Jewish-Arabic partnership. In a society that is structurally asymmetrical, structurally repressive towards the Arab-Palestinian community in Israel, forming this kind of genuine partnership is not just a technical issue. It means a very profound commitment in principle and in practice. And that, I think, allowed it in all its major mobilizations since its formation to enact joint Jewish-Arabic forms of resistance and mobilizations in ways that really did not happen before. Like, I come from a very radical left Communist Party tradition. For me, it was, since I was a teenager, I would go to Arab-Palestinian communities and participate in political activities there. The majority of Jewish leftists in Israel, and genuine leftists, because Israel's society is so segregated, it's not obvious to go and demonstrate in al-Fahim, Nazaret, or Saqnin for someone who's a Jewish leftist. And since I had some already experience with building those connections, I was eventually selected to be one of the co-coordinators of the Peace Partnership. But again, as a joint Jewish-Palestinian organization, it was important for us to have a co-leadership, and that's why my partner, Sulafa Mahul, who is an Arab-Palestinian woman, is my joint co-coordinator. During the initial stages of the Israeli-American war on Iran, there was again a very widespread consensus in Israeli society that supported the war. A lot of nationalism and militarism that made it very difficult for individual organizations to publicly mobilize against the war. And that's why, again, the Peace Partnership was the body that led resistance to the war within Israel. And already on the first day of the war, we published a declaration of numerous peace organizations against the war. By the end of the week, we organized the first demonstrations against the war, initially very small ones. And since then, every week, the demonstrations we organized grew. They spread to more cities and they grew in numbers. The first couple of weeks, our demonstrations were mostly dispersed by the police within minutes. It was quite hard to mobilize, but because as they grew and as opposition and criticism to the war grew within Israeli society, it was harder to repress us. And then, we had hundreds of demonstrators and eventually thousands of people on the streets. Not long ago, we had a demonstration against settler violence, settler terrorism. And I think that's something that quite a lot of the Israeli public, the Jewish public, is open to hearing about. At the same time, like a lot of our activities in the last couple of years have been aimed at the general Arab-Palestinian public in Israel. Most of the Arab-Palestinian public doesn't support the genocide in Gaza, doesn't support the occupation, of course, but due to the systematic political repression at the beginning of the war, which unfortunately this repression has been very effective at demobilizing political organization among Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel. We started working with local popular committees in different Arab communities because due to that repression, they needed Jewish allies, Jewish partners to come work with them for their safety, for their ability to mobilize and act. We organized the largest demonstration against the war of over 20,000 people in Sakhnin, and that demonstration was a joint Jewish-Arab demonstration. The High Follow-Up Committee approached the Peace Partnership to help organize it because they trust us to build bridges between Arab, Palestinian, and Jewish activists and organizations. And that, I think, is a real badge of honor for us that we were able to gain that trust and prove that we are the most effective organization to build those kind of bridges. The more funding we have, the more we're able to specifically build joint Jewish-Arabic popular mobilizations because of the segregated nature of Israeli society. When we want to bring Jews and Arabs together, we have to physically bring them together by organizing buses from Jewish communities to Arab communities or from Arab communities to Jewish communities. So we're able to do it for as much as we have a budget to do so. So I want to thank the RSN and its supporters for helping the Peace Partnership. We really appreciate that support. So I want to thank you, and we invite you to look for the Peace Partnership in social media and follow us.